Welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at how understanding the failures of others can actually be your secret weapon for success.
Interesting.
Instead of, dwelling on all the negativity, we're going to extract strategic insights from some real-world case studies.
I like it.
Help you make smarter decisions in your own ventures.
Yeah.
So to guide us through this fascinating world of oops moments, we have an expert who's spent years analyzing why companies succeed.
Right.
And just as importantly, why they sometimes stumble.
Yeah, that's the fun part.
Right.
I'm excited to unpack these case studies from be a genius, draw inspiration from others' mistakes.
Okay.
The book covers a lot of ground. Leadership pitfalls, vision and mission failures, strategic missteps, and overcoming transformation challenges. But there's one concept in particular that I think will really resonate with you. It's called CEO disease.
CEO disease. Now that sounds serious. Is this something I need to be worried about catching?
It's not contagious in the traditional sense, but it can be just as damaging to a company. CEO disease is it's a set of behavioral patterns that can lead even the most successful leaders down a path of poor decisions, ultimately impacting their entire company.
So give me an example. What are some of the, the symptoms of CEO disease?
Well, think overconfidence,
Oh.
resistance to feedback, surrounding yourself with yes people, those kinds of things.
So it's less about a medical condition and more about the dangers of, an unchecked ego.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. But how does this CEO disease actually play out in the real world?
Okay, let's take the infamous example of Enron. Their leadership's overconfidence.
Right.
And frankly, unethical behavior created a culture where employees were afraid to speak up.
Wow.
Leading to one of the biggest corporate scandals in history.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how fear can just permeate an entire organization and silence those who might have crucial insights. It reminds me of another case study from the book.
Okay.
Kodak's failure to embrace digital photography.
Right.
I mean, you'd think the company that invented the digital camera would be leading the charge, right?
Exactly. But Kodak's leadership was so focused on their existing film business
Right.
that they viewed digital as a threat rather than an opportunity. They were blinded by their past success and failed to adapt to a changing market. This wasn't just a missed opportunity. It was a complete failure to recognize a revolution in their own industry.
So how can leaders, how can they avoid falling prey to this CEO disease? Is there an antidote?
Well, the key is to cultivate humility and self-awareness.
Okay.
Leaders need to actively seek out diverse perspectives, encourage honest feedback, even critical feedback, and perhaps most importantly, be willing to admit when they're wrong.
It's about creating a culture where it's safe to challenge the status quo, even if that challenge comes from someone lower down the ladder. Now, moving beyond individual leaders, let's talk about something they often struggle with. Vision and mission. Everyone talks about these.
Right.
But this book gets into the nitty-gritty of where companies actually went wrong.
Yeah.
Which is incredibly valuable.
I think so.
I mean, it's one thing to have a beautifully crafted mission statement hanging on the wall, but, if it's not reflected in a company's actions and decisions, it's just empty words.
Right.
And the consequences of a misaligned vision can be disastrous.
Absolutely.
The book uses Blockbuster as a prime example of this.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, think about it. They had the chance to be why Netflix.
Right.
Imagine where they'd be today if they had embraced that opportunity.
Blockbuster's mission was rooted in physical stores, and they just couldn't see beyond that model. They underestimated the power of disruptive innovation and missed the boat on a massive shift in consumer behavior.
Makes you wonder how many other Blockbusters are out there right now. Clinging to outdated models while the world changes around them. So let's flip the script. What does a strong mission statement look like? What makes it truly effective?
Well, a strong mission statement needs to be, clear and concise.
Okay.
And action-oriented. It should guide daily decisions and keep everyone moving in the same direction.
Okay, so it's got to be more than just a feel-good slogan. It needs to be something you can actually put into practice.
Absolutely. And it should be adaptable. The business world is constantly changing. So a rigid mission statement can become a liability.
Kind of like wearing concrete shoes in a marathon.
Yeah, exactly.
You mentioned that a strong mission statement should be action-oriented, but how do you actually measure whether you're living up to that mission?
That's where measurable goals come in. You need to be able to track progress and hold yourself accountable. A company like Patagonia, for example, has a mission statement that's deeply ingrained in their actions. Their commitment to sustainability isn't just a marketing ploy. It's measurable through their environmental impact initiatives and transparent reporting.
Patagonia is a great example of a company that truly walks the walk.
Right.
Now, shifting gears from vision and mission, let's talk about something even more action-oriented: strategic missteps.
Okay.
It's like having a brilliant blueprint,
Okay.
but ending up with a wonky house. You know, a great strategy on paper can still fail in execution.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Right.
And the book uses the example of Tesco, the UK grocery giant, to illustrate this point.
Okay.
They tried to break into the U.S. market with their fresh and easy stores, but failed spectacularly.
Didn't they end up retreating back to the UK with their tail between their legs?
They did.
What went wrong?
Well, they had a successful model in the UK, but they underestimated the importance of adapting to local preferences. You see, they didn't fully grasp the nuances of the U.S. market, and their execution was flawed. It's a reminder that what works in one context doesn't always translate to another.
So even with a solid strategy, a lack of understanding of the market can lead to a major stumble.
Right.
Speaking of stumbling, the book talks about something called the sunk cost fallacy, which sounds like a trap it's all too easy to fall into.
It absolutely is. The sunk cost fallacy is that tendency to keep throwing good money after bad, even when it's clear a project is failing.
Right.
You've invested so much already you don't want to admit defeat. But sometimes knowing when to cut your losses is the smartest move, even if it's painful.
Yeah. So how do we avoid this trap? How do we know when it's time to walk away from a sinking ship?
It takes discipline and a willingness to be honest with yourself.
Okay.
Regularly evaluate your projects and strategies. Are you achieving your goals?
Yeah.
Are you adapting to changes in the market?
Right.
Are you being realistic about the likelihood of success?
Right.
If the answers are no, it might be time to reevaluate your commitment.
It's about recognizing that sometimes the bravest decision is knowing when to walk away and redirect your energy towards something more promising. And this brings us to, I think, a crucial question. What happens when a company realizes it needs a complete overhaul? How do you navigate the treacherous waters of transformation? Transformation, it's a word that gets thrown around a lot in the business world.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's often easier said than done. The book highlights that many transformation initiatives actually fail. And I'm curious to understand why that is.
Well, you're right. Transformation is, it's a tricky business.
Yeah.
One of the most common reasons for failure is a lack of clarity.
Okay.
Companies announce they need to transform, but they don't have a defined vision of what that actually looks like or how they'll get there.
It's like setting off on a road trip with no destination in mind.
Right.
You might enjoy the scenery, but you're unlikely to end up anywhere meaningful. So a clear vision is crucial. But what else contributes to a successful transformation?
Another critical factor is leadership commitment.
Okay.
If the people at the top aren't fully on board and willing to lead by example, the whole effort can fizzle out. Change is hard. It requires people to step outside their comfort zones. And they need to see that their leaders are committed to the journey.
It's about creating a sense of trust and shared purpose.
Right.
Employees need to believe that the transformation is necessary and that their leaders have a plan.
Yeah.
The book provides some compelling examples of both successful and unsuccessful transformations, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. General Electric, or GE, is a great example of a company that's gone through several major transformations over the years. Back in the early 2000s, they realized they were spread too thin, involved in too many different businesses. They needed to streamline and refocus.
So what did they do? Did they just decide to cut a bunch of departments and call it a day?
Well, it was more strategic than that. They sold off non-core businesses and started to reinvest in their industrial roots.
Okay.
While also making bold moves into digital technology. It was a period of significant change. And while some aspects were more successful than others, they demonstrated a willingness to adapt and evolve.
That adaptability seems to be a recurring theme in successful companies.
Right.
But what about a company that struggled with transformation?
Well, unfortunately, Blockbuster is a prime example of a company that failed to adapt. We've already discussed how they missed the boat on Netflix.
Yeah.
But even their attempts to launch their own streaming service were hampered by their existing infrastructure and mindset. They were stuck in the past, unable to fully embrace the digital revolution that was happening around them.
It's a classic case of the innovator's dilemma. Sometimes a company's past success can actually make it harder to adapt to new technologies or business models.
It's true.
So, looking at these examples, what are the key lessons we can learn about navigating transformation successfully?
One important takeaway is that transformation is a journey, not a destination.
Okay.
It's an ongoing process of adapting and evolving, constantly scanning the horizon for signs of change, and being willing to adjust course.
It's almost like surfing.
Hmm.
You need to be able to read the waves,
Right.
adjust your balance, and ride the wave of change instead of getting wiped out. You need to be agile and responsive.
Exactly. And just like surfing, transformation requires practice and a bit of courage.
Okay.
You might wipe out sometimes, but the key is to learn from those mistakes and get back on the board.
So there's hope even for companies that have stumbled in the past.
Absolutely. The business world is full of stories of companies that were on the ropes, but managed to reinvent themselves and achieve remarkable success. It's all about having the right mindset, the right leadership, and the willingness to embrace change. But transformation isn't just for big companies. These same principles apply to individuals, to you,
Right.
as you navigate your own career and pursue your goals.
That's an important point. We often think of these massive companies,
Yeah.
but the lessons they learn can be applied to our own lives.
That's
Sometimes
right.
we can learn more from their failures than their successes.
Right.
Speaking of learning, Be a Genius doesn't just focus on the doom and gloom of business failures. It also highlights some truly inspiring stories of companies that turned setbacks into springboards for reinvention.
That's what I find so fascinating about studying these case studies.
Yeah.
There's a resilience in some companies that's truly remarkable. They face adversity head on, learn from their mistakes, and come back stronger than ever. And it's not just about changing their business model. It's about a shift in mindset, a willingness to embrace a new way of thinking.
This brings us to a critical concept that's often overlooked.
Oh.
Organizational blind spots. These are areas where companies are literally blind to potential problems or risks. What causes these blind spots to develop in the first place?
Well, one contributing factor is poor internal communication. When departments operate in silos, they become unaware of what's happening in other parts of the organization, leading to a distorted view of the bigger picture.
It's like that game of telephone where the message gets completely garbled as it's passed along.
Exactly.
So you've got a company that's been successful, maybe even a bit complacent,
Right.
and they start believing their own hype. They surround themselves with people who think just like them.
And they stop paying attention to what's happening in the market, what their customers are actually saying.
Exactly. They become blind to the signals that indicate change is needed. The world doesn't stand still.
Right.
New technologies emerge, consumer preferences shift, and competitors are always looking for an opportunity to capitalize on any weakness. Be a Genius dives into some fascinating case studies that illustrate these organizational blind spots in action.
Let's talk about Nokia. Remember them?
Oh yeah,
They were once the king of mobile phones, seemingly invincible.
right.
I remember thinking my Nokia brick phone was indestructible.
Yeah,
Little did I know it would be destroyed by the iPhone.
right.
Nokia's downfall is a classic example of organizational blind spots. They had internal communication issues that prevented different departments from collaborating effectively.
Right.
They also had a risk-averse culture that discouraged employees from challenging the status quo or proposing innovative ideas.
So even though there might have been people within Nokia who saw the potential of touchscreen smartphones, their voices weren't heard.
Exactly. They clung to their old operating system, Symbian, for far too long, while the world embraced iOS and Android.
Right.
By the time they realized their mistake, it was too late. They had lost their market dominance and struggled to catch up.
It's a cautionary tale about the dangers of clinging to past success and failing to adapt to the changing tides. Another example the book highlights is the Volkswagen emissions scandal.
Right.
What blind spots led to such a major ethical violation?
Well, in Volkswagen's case, unrealistic goals and a culture of fear created a perfect storm for disaster.
Okay.
They had set very ambitious targets for their diesel car sales, particularly in the U.S. market.
Right.
And the pressure to meet those targets led to some very poor decisions.
And when the pressure's on, sometimes ethical boundaries get blurred.
Unfortunately, yes. Instead of innovating to meet emission standards, they chose to cheat the system by installing software that would detect when a car was being tested
Oh, wow.
and artificially lower the emissions readings.
It's a reminder that success at any cost is not true success at all.
Right.
It can lead to severe consequences, damaging not just the company's reputation, but also eroding trust with customers and stakeholders. Now, one more case study that I found particularly intriguing was WeWork.
Right.
They were the super trendy company valued at billions, offering co-working spaces all over the world.
Right.
But then their IPO, their attempt to go public, completely imploded.
WeWork. A fascinating example of how excessive confidence and hype can mask fundamental flaws in a business model. They were burning through cash at an alarming rate, expanding too quickly, and relying on the charisma of their CEO Adam Neumann to keep investors happy.
It's like building a house of cards. It looks impressive, but the slightest breeze can bring it all crashing down.
Yeah.
What were the blind spots that ultimately led to their downfall?
Well, their downfall stemmed from a lack of transparency and a business model that just didn't make sense in the long run.
Okay.
They were essentially leasing office space and then subleasing it at a higher price.
Right.
But their growth was unsustainable.
Okay.
When investors finally started digging into WeWork's financials, they realized the company's valuation was inflated. The emperor had no clothes.
So we've got these cautionary tales of Nokia, Volkswagen, and WeWork, all brought down by different types of organizational blind spots. What's the takeaway for our listeners? How can we avoid making these same mistakes, whether in our own businesses or in our careers?
The key is to create a culture of awareness and openness. Encourage people to speak up when they see potential problems. Don't be afraid to question assumptions, challenge the status quo, and be willing to change course when necessary.
Don't surround yourself with yes people.
Right.
Seek out diverse perspectives and truly listen to what others have to say. Sometimes the most valuable insights come from unexpected sources.
You're absolutely right. Diversity thought is crucial for avoiding blind spots and making sound decisions. It's about creating an environment where people feel safe to challenge ideas, ask tough questions, and offer alternative viewpoints.
So cultivate that culture of curiosity.
Right.
Encourage constructive dissent, and be open to learning from others, even if their opinions differ from your own. These are valuable lessons, not just for leaders of large companies, but for anyone who wants to navigate the complexities of the business world and achieve success.
Okay, so we've been dissecting some pretty high-profile mishaps.
Right.
And exploring those organizational blind spots.
That can lead to some major stumbles. But now let's shift gears and talk about companies that not only survived setbacks, but use them as fuel for some remarkable comebacks.
Right.
These stories are a reminder that failure doesn't have to be the end. It can actually be a catalyst for innovation and growth.
I agree. These comeback stories are incredibly inspiring. They demonstrate that resilience and the ability to adapt are essential for navigating the ever-changing business landscape.
Let's start with a company that's close to many hearts, Lego.
Okay.
In the early 2000s, they were facing some serious challenges. They had expanded into too many product lines,
right,
lost focus on their core values,
and
were on the brink of bankruptcy. What were the key decisions that led them back from the edge?
Well, they made the difficult but crucial decision to go back to basics. They recognized that their strength lay in those iconic Lego bricks and the boundless creativity they inspire.
Right.
They streamlined their product line, recentered their focus on quality, and most importantly, they started listening more closely to their to their passionate fan base.
They didn't just retreat into their shell, though.
Yeah.
They also embraced digital innovation in a way that made sense for their brand. Think about how popular their Lego video games are,
Right.
and how the Lego digital designer platform allows fans to build and share their creations online.
They found a way to bridge the physical and digital worlds, enhancing the Lego experience for a new generation. This wasn't about blindly chasing trends. It was about understanding their core values and finding ways to leverage technology to strengthen their connection with their audience.
Lego's comeback is a fantastic example of a company that rediscovered its core identity and used it to fuel its resurgence. Another inspiring turnaround story is that of IBM. Back in the 90s, they were seen as a dinosaur, a company stuck in the past, heavily focused on hardware, while the PC revolution was taking off.
They were losing money, market share. Their stock price was plummeting. It was a pivotal moment for IBM. They had to decide whether to cling to their outdated model or embrace a radical transformation.
So how did they manage to pull themselves out of that nosedive? What were the key changes they made?
Well, their new CEO, Louis Gerstner, brought a fresh perspective.
Okay.
He recognized that IBM's true strength wasn't necessarily in hardware, but in their deep technological expertise,
Right.
and their long-standing relationships with large corporations.
So instead of trying to compete in the rapidly evolving PC market,
Yep.
they shifted their focus to something they already excelled at, providing solutions for businesses.
Exactly. They started offering IT consulting, software development,
Okay.
and other services that helped businesses leverage technology to improve their operations. This strategic shift, along with a renewed focus on innovation, allowed IBM to become a leader in the IT services market. Their stock price rebounded, and they secured their place in the digital age.
It's amazing how a company that was once considered a relic of the past was able to reinvent itself,
Right.
and become a driving force in the technology sector.
Right.
These stories of transformation are all about recognizing when change is necessary and having the courage to make bold decisions. Now, let's talk about a brand that went through a truly remarkable transformation.
Okay.
Old Spice.
Oh yeah, Old Spice. They were the classic old man aftershave, struggling to connect with younger generations. Their brand was seen as outdated. Their marketing was stale, and they were losing market share to newer, more contemporary competitors.
Yeah.
They needed a drastic change to stay relevant.
And then they launched that iconic "The Man Your Man Could Smell Like" campaign in 2010. It was like a marketing supernova.
Yeah.
Completely revitalizing the brand.
It was brilliant. They embraced humor, self-awareness, and social media engagement in a way that completely re-energized the brand.
Mm-hmm.
They took a product that was perceived as old and stuffy, and injected it with humor and coolness.
Who can forget Isaiah Mustafa riding a horse backward and delivering those memorable lines? It was a masterclass in viral marketing. But it wasn't just a one-hit wonder.
Yep.
Old Spice continued to produce creative, funny, and engaging content that resonated with their target audience. They had successfully shed their outdated image and become a brand that people talked about, shared, and most importantly, bought.
Their success highlights the power of understanding your target audience,
Right.
and adapting your message to resonate with them. They weren't afraid to take risks, poke fun at themselves, and embrace new platforms to reach a younger generation.
It's a lesson for anyone trying to connect with a new generation of consumers. Don't be afraid to challenge conventional thinking. Be willing to experiment and find ways to engage in a way that feels authentic. We've talked about Lego, IBM, and Old Spice,
Right.
all companies that face significant challenges, but managed to turn things around.
Yeah.
They embraced change, adapted their strategies, and reconnected with their audiences in meaningful ways.
And what's so inspiring about these stories is that they show us that failure is not the end. It's It's often just the beginning of a new chapter.
A chance to learn, grow, and emerge stronger and more resilient than before.
Exactly. It's all about having the right mindset, the right leadership, and the courage to embrace change. Remember, the lessons we've uncovered today aren't just for CEOs or large corporations.
Right.
They're applicable to you in your own ventures, your career, and even your personal life.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into learning from failure, we want to leave you with this thought: don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Embrace those oops moments, extract the lessons they offer, and use them as fuel for your own journey of success.
Analyze what went wrong.
Right.
Identify the blind spots, and use those insights to make more informed decisions moving forward.
Keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.